Perfect. Thank you.
Of course. Okay. Thanks for your patience. We will get started. So, hello, and thank you for joining us today for this webinar on bookkeeping and record keeping. My name is Erica Knowles, and I will be presenting today. I am part of Civitas Strategies, and we are a national team of childcare business coaches. We work with childcare providers all over the country, and we're very excited to be bringing you all this webinar today. This is a crucial topic, and hopefully there'll be some questions at the end. We will have a Q&A time at the end when we all come back together after this session. So today's session should last about an hour or so. And again, that Q&A time will be at the end. I do look forward to some engaging conversation at the end. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them at that time. So quick disclaimer before we get started. The information contained here has been prepared by Civitas Strategies and is not intended to constitute legal, tax, or financial advice. The Civitas Strategies team has used reasonable efforts in collecting, preparing, and providing this information, but does not guarantee its accuracy, completeness, adequacy, or currency. The publication and distribution of this information is not intended to create, and receipt does not constitute an attorney-client or any other advisory relationship. Reproduction of this information and recording of this content, including the use of AI, are expressly prohibited. Only non-commercial uses of this work are permitted. Okay, let's get started. So today we are going to cover both basic bookkeeping and record keeping, and we're going to answer a few questions along the way. So why keep records? What records should you be keeping? How should you maintain your records? And then also we're going to, on the bookkeeping end, we're going to kind of go into a little bit of how you can account for funds coming in and also going out of your childcare business. So let's get started by defining a few terms for everyone. It's easy to confuse bookkeeping and record keeping. They're certainly relatable, but they are different. So every childcare business must have a basic system of accounting, which is your bookkeeping for your costs, for your revenues. This can serve as really your marker, your heartbeat for your financial health of your childcare business. A solid and complete record keeping system can help you to easily access your systems that can help you when you need to find documents, whether that be for licensing or the bank or parents or whomever may come knocking on your door to ask for something critical that you need to find. You'll also be able to find something when you need it, again, when it's requested by maybe a funder or you want to apply for a grant or something like that in the future. Practically speaking, clear records allow you to quickly understand your business's needs and also your day-to-day operations. Some bookkeeping generally refers to a basic system of accounting for cost and revenue. Record keeping includes all business records, such as, again, state and federal forms, taxes, payroll. The list goes on and on and on, especially in the childcare world. Remember that no matter the size of your childcare business, you have to keep a lot of different types of records, no matter if you have one child or 150 children. All of these are required and very, very important for you to be organized in that, and we'll talk through that. So we're going to start off with record keeping, because keeping good records is going to help you then to set up hopefully a basic bookkeeping system as well. So there are several types of records that should be maintained, again, regardless of the size of your childcare business. For example, all businesses should keep your state and federal tax returns, including all supporting backup documentation. You should also keep current and past employee information, including names, addresses, timesheets, pay stubs, all of those things. Luckily, a lot of that now is automated in different payroll systems, but you definitely need to make sure you're keeping those. Generally, records should include bank statements, insurance documents, any contracts, loans, mortgages, receipts, customer bills, or tuition charges, profit and loss statements, and also balance sheets if you do those. There are additional types of records that will be useful to keep depending on your organization type. For larger organizations, you should include a depreciation schedule if you have that, if that's applicable to you. For nonprofits or corporations with a board of directors, you should also save, your meeting minutes, documentation, and then any sort of incorporation paperwork as well. And as a general rule, all childcare providers should save all paperwork related to their business, including licensing and regulation paperwork, obviously, as well. Different kinds of records should be kept for different lengths of time, and depending on the specific type of record, that's going to tell you how long the records should be kept. For example, we recommend keeping all tax records for at least 7 years. That is the max needed in cases where you're claiming a loss for your childcare business. But the minimum needed is at least 3 years from the date that you filed the original return, or 2 years from the date that you paid the tax, whichever one is later. Accounting documents, including invoicing, checks, should be kept for 5 years, and payroll and printed timesheets, if applicable, should be held for 3 to 7 years, like your tax records. For nonprofits and corporations that complete audit reports, you want to plan to keep those records indefinitely. Annual statements should remain in your records indefinitely as well. And some other important records and the amounts of time to keep them include, your personnel files. Those should be 4 to 5 years. This can be very overwhelming. I was a director for a long time, and when I would think of the, thought of trying to shred documents, like, there was no time for that. But it is very important that you have some sort of system in place in order to make sure that you are keeping the documents that you need for as long as is required. Past insurance policies and records for 3 years should be kept, as well as any contracts for at least 3 years after they've been completed. As you can imagine, it can be useful to create a retention schedule or some type of schedule so that when you can get rid of some of the documents. So it is important for you to figure out what type of schedule is going to work for you, so that you're able to not hold on to documents for 20, 30 years, which is normally what happens in childcare, because there's no time to get rid of the stuff whenever you can. You have got some options for storing your records as well. We are in the digital age, thankfully, but We also think that you should have two ways of storing your records. Things happen, crazy things happen. The perks of maintaining digital records are that obviously they don't take up as much space. You don't have all the boxes in the shed or the attic, or the closet, or wherever you can find a place to shove a box. There are many free or low cost options that are simple to use. And setting up digital records can be a simple task. However, it can also seem very overwhelming. So you want to make sure that you start off with, taking pictures of things that you're able to quickly and, find a way to file those right away, and then kind of work your way back through older records if you decide to do that. But taking pictures with your phone and then automatically, sending them to yourself or having them backed up on your computer is a great way to get started, or on the cloud. And then again, we do recommend that you have another way to keep your records. A paper record keeping system can be one of the simplest to use. It's what we all used way back when, 20 something years ago, when I started in childcare. It can be very clearly organized and labeled, and it should be. There's nothing worse than looking for a file, whatever the reason is, and you cannot find that file. Been there, done that. There are some simple tools that you can use to organize a paper-based system. These might include file folders, hanging folders, boxes, different file cabinets, or, there's many, many different ways that these can be organized for you. Either way you decide to do it, whether you're setting up a digital and or a paper-based record keeping system, getting everything set up is going to take a little bit of time, but an investment of just a couple hours a week will make a huge difference in the future. And it will make a huge difference in your peace of mind, if and when, again, you are looking for a file, and hopefully it is going to be a little bit easier and more accessible for you. A records index is a reference guide kind of for you. So you're easily able to look up and find the certain file that you may need, not just for you, but also for someone else. So while some of you may be business owners, some maybe not. And I can tell you, as someone who moved a lot and started over as a director many times, it was always nice if somebody else before me had a great records index of some kind for me. And I'm sure that would be appreciated for anybody else following your position as well. So there will come a time when someone else needs to find a record, and they maybe won't have time to find you beforehand. So a good records index makes your system accessible whenever it needs to be. A simple version of a records index might just be literally labeling the outside of the file box. Or there is you could just have a piece of paper, you take the lid off the box, and on the piece of paper, you have listed all of the children's files that are in there, or all of the staff files that are in that box. Again, the simple version really is a great way to do it. And again, that can just be written on the outside of the box or on a piece of paper inside. A more complex version might be a spreadsheet or a table on your computer indicating where each important record can be found. But the system that's best is the one that you're actually going to use, period. There are many different ways to do it, and you can have a grandiose system, but if you're not doing it and not sticking to it, it's not going to do your business any good. So do what works for you and your brain and your childcare business. Maintaining accurate records for your childcare business is important to providing quality care and also protecting the health and safety of the children in your care. Staffing information, emergency contact information, medication protocols, all of those are just a few of the very important documents that you keep every day. So it is very helpful for any kind of audit, or in a case where you're looking to expand, you have the information to show potential investors, or apply for grants, or you're able to show that information if you are in need of a bank loan. Your records are crucial to your business, and being able to access them easily can really save you a lot of frustration, time, and money. Um, Whatever record keeping system works for you, plan to regularly try to maintain that and back up the important information. Again, the best record keeping system is the one that you're going to use. So, the one that you're actually going to stick with. This means that first creating a habit for yourself. Some might file things right when they cross your desk, and that's wonderful. And some may prefer to hold on to everything and file it maybe at the end of the month. Either way, again, just make sure whatever your system is, it's one that it works for you and you're able to keep up with it. We also strongly suggest, again, those two sets of records that I mentioned, having them stored digitally and or in paper as well. Again, just to create another backup, could be on the cloud, and then also on your computer, or again in paper form as well. Very important. Crazy things, we've heard crazy things: the shed flooded, or the computer crashed, or the cloud went away. So really important to think about having two different, a backup for those. Some tips on getting started and keeping organized. Create a simple log, and that is going to help you to organize your record keeping system as you get started. All of those records that you just went through, write down what you should be keeping, how long you should be keeping them for, and how often do you need to update them. And of course, where they're located, both places, if it's digitally and or in paper. Another thing to keep in mind as you create or start to create your filing system is that key records and data like social security numbers, addresses, medical information also need to have privacy protections. So be sure to lock up that sensitive information that you have kept, whether that be in hard copy or on your computer. There are options for, to lock things digitally with password encryption or password protection. You can use multiple encryption technologies as well. Whether your files are on paper or on your hard drive or in the cloud, add the maximum reasonable amount of protection that you can to mitigate the risk to yourself and your business, as well as the families. Keep the people who trust you and gave you access to that information, keep them in mind as you figure out the best way to do that. You can use your record keeping system not only to maintain historical information, but also to help prepare for reoccurring tasks or future tasks as well. So this is what we call a tickler system. So creating a tickler system or a document or a folder, it can be digitally or on paper. It can literally be a reminder that pops up on your phone or on your calendar on your computer, but just a little tickler to get you used to and on a schedule to remember to do the things that you need to do. So they can prepare you for your quarterly taxes or your annual reporting, or remind you to do your monthly follow-ups or renewals, for example. And this can be as easy as a Post-it note, if that's something that you're still doing, on your computer or on your calendar, or again, it can be something that you put in your phone and it's an alert that just pops up to remind you. Finally, there is certainly outside help available if needed. If you are able to, and if you are super overwhelmed and able to, hire an outside bookkeeper. Be clear about the activities that you're looking for them to do for you. Remember that the ultimate responsibility for bookkeeping or record keeping of your records lies with you. So remember that even if you're hiring someone else, that ultimately still falls on your shoulders. So make sure you are very upfront and open with the person that you're hiring on exactly what you are looking for. There are also online and computer-based tools as well that can help you with things like invoicing or time tracking, payroll, paying different bills. The list goes on and on. But there are many, many choices for those. If you're considering purchasing one of those apps or software platforms, be clear about what you need and what your budget is. Some things have a million bells and whistles, and maybe you don't need all of those. So be clear about what exactly you need before you start looking for those. Use a trial period if possible, or a demo, to understand those available features. Again, you don't need a Cadillac always. You might just need something that's a little more cost effective for your childcare business. And then think about mobile accessibility as well, or how it will also, or can it be accessed by your team. If you have others that work for you and your staff, will they be able to have the app as well on their phone to take the pictures and email the receipts or whatever? But yes, there are many, many different options out there. You just really need to look at what's available and decide what exactly it is you need. We're now going to move into bookkeeping. So bookkeeping, this is really going to flow from record keeping right into bookkeeping. Again, I talked about it earlier. It's going to help you once you get your records in order. That is going to help you with your bookkeeping. The records that you are now keeping and now able to, have in order, you will be able to then utilize that system in your bookkeeping system as well. So bookkeeping is the process of tracking and recording a business's financial transactions. There are two basic steps to bookkeeping. First is opening a business bank account. If you are an owner and you do not have a business bank account and everything is commingled, you need to open a business bank account. That is going to be extremely helpful to you in your business. Second, adopting a bookkeeping system is also very important. Again, that system is what we will go through now. So step one is to determine how you will account for funds coming in and going out of your childcare business. There are two basic methods in accounting. One is called the accrual method, which is more complex and is based on when an expense or a revenue is taken on or accrued. For example, if you're using the accrual method, the moment you receive your credit card bill, the amount owed would be taken from your assets versus when you actually pay the bill. It can be very confusing. If you use the cash method, which most childcare businesses do, this amount, excuse me, would be taken from your assets when the bill is paid. So the cash method is more common for childcare businesses and is a lot less challenging to wrap your brain around how it all goes. It's based on when things are actually paid, when that money actually hits your account, and when that money actually leaves your account. That's your cash method. So as an example, you can look at some revenues. When a child is in your care for a week, and let's say the parent owes you $200, under the accrual method, that $200 is considered income at that time when they owe it. Even if you don't have that money yet, you would still count that as income. Under the cash method, the $200 wouldn't be considered income until that parent pays that tuition, and that actually hits your bank account. For most small childcare businesses, the cash method is much simpler, and also probably more helpful, because it's really going to show you exactly when that money is coming into your account and when it's leaving your account. This method is usually more comfortable, because it will in many ways match what you're actually seeing, and balancing your checkbook or balancing your account is made much easier. So again, two different methods. Most of the time, the cash method is what childcare businesses use, but just so you know, there is that accrual method as well. So step 2 is to decide how you will record your transactions. For this, you want to start by listing out the revenue streams your business has. These are the categories that you'll use to track your revenue, or revenue is the money that's coming into your business. So these are some common categories for childcare businesses. Some may be slightly different, but usually you have your tuition, your subsidy, your different fees, your food program or CACFP if you are part of that, any grants, and then we also suggest having an other category just in case. Step 3 is that you will now do the same thing for your expenses. So now you know exactly what money is coming in, and now you need to know what money is going out. So these are some common child care business expense categories. It can be tempting to break your expenses down into very small, complicated categories. However, we suggest keeping these expense categories as large as possible when you're first starting. I usually explain it as, think of these as buckets. So you have your personnel bucket, your taxes bucket, your rent or mortgage bucket, all the different buckets. When they are large buckets, it makes it so much easier for you to keep track of things and actually stick to it. When you get very granular and small and complicated in those categories, yes, you can get more data, you can get more information, but it can also be very overwhelming. If you try to break out, your supplies bucket into infant supplies and toddler supplies and preschool supplies and kitchen supplies and office supplies, you're going to get a ton of information, but it can, again, also be very overwhelming. And a lot of times what happens when things are overwhelming is you just don't do it. So we highly suggest that you start off with those large categories, and then once you get used to it, you can break things down a little bit smaller. Step 4 is to set up a schedule to review and record your transactions. You'll want to do this at least monthly. You'll look through and record all of your revenue sources, and then your income, and then all of your expenses as well. Though it may seem very tedious when you start to record each transaction, it is important in terms of understanding your profitability by tracking exactly where your money is coming from and where it is going to. So once you have recorded your revenue and your expenses for the month, you will then total each category. And then you're going to subtract your expenses from your revenue. That's going to tell you if you made a profit or not at the end of the month. If that money's in the negative, then that is a loss for that time. If it is in the positive, then you actually made some profit, which is wonderful. If you are profitable, you may want to consider holding on to some of that profit, leaving it in the business for a rainy day, or potentially to help pay, any sort of bills that you have as well. So some pro tips for you in thinking about this process: label your receipts. As soon as you get a receipt, write at the top of that receipt the bucket that it is coming out of in your budgeting categories, whether it's supplies or food or whatever that may be. And also, obviously, make sure you have the date on there as well. Stick to a regular schedule. Choose a time that works best for you. There's no magic pill. It is literally whatever works for you, and that's what you should try to stick with. Also, consider an electronic system if possible. There are many systems out there to help, but creating a simple spreadsheet, if you do not have Microsoft, and you don't want to pay for all of that, look to Google. Google has the equivalent, that you're able to use, and those are free. So you could use a Google Doc or Google Sheet for that. And then again, there are plenty of different options online as well that you would be able to look up and utilize if needed. So we are pretty much at the end of the information for this webinar. I do want to now open it up for some questions. I would be more than happy to have you come off mute for questions, or you can put them in the chat, whatever you feel more comfortable with. But I will open it up for some time for questions. Also, Margaret put in the chat for us, thank you, Margaret, that you can also reference the record retention schedule included in the tool on record keeping. And she put a link to that tool in the chat as well.
Hello, I have a quick question. We're a fairly new business. We're only 3 years old, and we kind of have all these systems set up, but the one thing that I struggle with is like doing journal entries when something doesn't hit the bank account or something weird. I avoid doing that.
Okay, so do you have, so you mean, tell me exactly what you mean when you say journal entries.
So there's been a few instances in the past where something, and of course I can't remember off the top of my head, but where our bookkeeper was like, you need to, because she's not really like a full on bookkeeper, because she does our taxes, but out of the kindness of her heart, she helps us a little bit with bookkeeping. But there was a few things like just weird things. So we had a parent whose grandparent or a kid whose grandparent paid for her tuition for the entire year.
Yep.
And so I was worried that something was the way it was going to be recorded into our system was going to be weird. So I just kind of jot these things down, but I'm not really sure how to go in and enter them if it's not coming from our bank account. If that makes sense.
Yes. So I have a feeling, and this is a guess from me, but I have a feeling that obviously that's going to make a difference at the end of the year, like for statements. I would think that the note that they're asking you to put in would be more for your reference when, at the end of the year, the parents come back and say, you didn't give me a tax statement. And, you're able to have that note in there that, that was actually going to the grandparents because they're the ones that, or whatever it might be.
Right.
But there may be another, reason of why they're asking you for that, that note or that, whatever. I'm sorry, I forget what you said it was called,
Journal
but
entry. Yeah, I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah, there may be another reason for that. If I were you, I would ask specifically for that reason, to see what it is. And maybe it's, they're confused or you're confused on what it is. Me as a
Right.
person, I would want to know just so it would give me a little,
Right.
more buy-in for wanting to do it.
Yeah, yeah, because it's always kind of like in the back of my head, and then just priorities overcome that, and and then
Yeah,
it's just like, am I not doing something I'm supposed to be doing? And I guess I just, like, as a novice to all of this, I don't really fully understand. Yeah, so yeah, I'll have to kind of dig deeper with that, but
yeah, yeah. And again, it may be for your own reference for later because, we all say,
right.
oh, I'm not going to forget that. We do.
That makes sense.
We
Yeah.
sleep and kids go, things
Oh
happen.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Okay.
but I have a feeling that those entries, they're wanting you to put in for reference for later so that you can remember or they can remember exactly why
Okay.
there's discrepancies or just like one-offs.
Yeah, that makes sense too, because we had an issue too where our system was, we were started to accept online payments, and that was all fine and easy for everyone else. But when we went back, that it would show us the payment, but not what invoice and family it was connected to. So that created like a lot of issues.
Yeah,
So that makes sense. Yeah, just like kind of little notes, because yeah, Lord knows I am not going to remember that.
yeah, yeah. Believe me, I'm not
Yeah.
judging. I totally get it. Yeah, and I would also think too, the bookkeeper that you have or the person who's doing that, asking you for that, they are probably not looking at the same system that you're looking at every day for billing and payments as well. So again, I'm guessing it's just a, covering yourself and them so that you all can remember those little
Right.
one-offs.
Yeah, awesome. That makes sense. Thank you so much.
Of course, of course. In the chat, um, let me see what is in. Okay, so Stacy says, curious about how you would digitize your staff files when licensing inspectors come. They need to look at the file. I haven't thought of digitizing them per se, and curious if you're actually scanning them and keeping them in digital file. Yes, so I will say that I am not 100% sure what um, Colorado requires for this. I didn't say at the beginning, I was a director for over 18 years in many different states. My husband actually retired from the military a few months ago. So we moved every 3 years, but Colorado is not one that we ever made it to. So I am not sure. Some states are very specific that you have to have those paper files, but a lot are going to that you are able to have them digitally. So I'm not sure if anybody else on here has more knowledge on that, but I will say, even for a backup, I still think it's a good thing. And eventually, pretty much, I'm sure most states, Colorado included, is going to, allow for these digital files. But again, even if it's just for the backup, I would have, you can scan them in and have them saved on your computer in a file there. But I definitely think it's still important to have, even if it's just for the backup. But I would still keep the paper one if that's what Colorado licensing is requiring. You're welcome, Stacy. Anybody else? More than welcome to come off mute or add a question to the chat. Thanks, Kristen. I am not stopping with the Q&A. You are more than welcome to continue typing or asking questions. I do want to show you these last couple slides that we have, because we have some great resources at Civitas Strategies, and I want to make sure that you all know that if we were not able to answer your question today and you're too shy to come off mute or put it in the chat, you can always go to the Tom Copeland blog. If you are familiar with Tom Copeland, we at Civitas Strategies took over Tom Copeland's blog when he retired a while ago. So surprise, it's us that answers the questions and gives you all of the information for the Tom Copeland blog. But if we were not able to answer your question, or if you have any further questions, you can click on the resources on the Tom Copeland blog, and there are so much, 1,500 helpful resources there for childcare businesses. Also, there is, if you still can't find the answer that you're looking for after kind of looking through some of the resources, you can click on the Ask the Experts section, and that will take you to a place where you can ask one of our team members, and they will answer the questions for you. So excellent resource, Tom Copeland blog. If you've not ever checked out that website, I highly suggest that you do. And then the other piece of information that I want to make sure, I have two different slides. I have the English one, and then I'll click to the Spanish one. But this is the QR code to our not LinkedIn, to our YouTube. I don't know why my mom was stuck on LinkedIn, but to our YouTube channel. And if you have not found our YouTube channel, we have tons of information on there as well. There are over 600 videos on a plethora of childcare business topics. Videos are available in English and in Spanish. And again, excellent information on our YouTube channel as well. I will click now to the Spanish slide for our Spanish speaking providers. But definitely want to check out our YouTube channel if you have not ever done that. Great information there too. All right. Well, we are finished. I would be more than happy to stay on here for just a few more minutes. I know that we still have a few more minutes before our time is up. So if you have any further questions, you can stay on. And like I said, I'll be on here for just a few more minutes. If not, thank you so much for joining. And we truly appreciate the amazing work that you're doing for the children in Colorado. Thank you so much. Great. Mr. Juan, you want to hang on 1 second?
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Are you looking for more help with this specific topic? Yes. Okay, so hold on, let me see. Let me wait until our Spanish speakers come back in case there's any other questions as well. But okay, Margaret, are
Y de
you
nuevo,
there?
si hablantes Yeah, I just
Español que
ended
desean hacer una pregunta
Spanish
están de lo más
interpretation.
bienvenida.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yep, we're here.
Okay, wonderful. There were no other questions in the Spanish room. Mr. Juan has a question. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything over there.
I
No,
did
nothing
not
else.
hear anything.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so what type of question or information or what exactly are you looking for?
I'm in the really old generation. So for me, doing anything like computer is really hard. So I wondered if you guys had like somebody close by who can teach me a little bit more. So like how I can organize all this. That's gonna be awesome for me. And for whoever they help me.
Okay.
They can learn from me too.
You're not that old.
Yeah, I do. I am, yeah.
You're not. Don't make me feel old. No, so we have the information that's included on the Tom Copeland blog, but then also on the YouTube channel. We don't have any specific information for helping you specifically in Colorado on this topic. Margaret, is there any other resources that I'm not thinking of that could potentially be helpful for him that you know of?
Not any in-person resources. The best thing we can do is point you to some of our digital access things. So those will be those guides and those videos that Eric's been mentioning. And we also will be sharing additional written tools with you all. And those will come from Stacy from the Rocky Mountain Childcare Association, Early Childhood Council. So be on the lookout from those from her as well, because those will be the exact matches to this webinar series. So we'll have, again, recurring webinars coming up across the next couple of months. And so we will have written resources to accompany these, but unfortunately we don't have any in-person resources to offer in your state at this time.
Yeah. I would suggest, because I'm old too, but I would suggest that you try to find, if you have staff members, try to find somebody in your staff that's able to help. I mean, my own children are 16 and 17 and they're,
Yeah.
so fast.
Yeah.
But that would be my suggestion, is to somebody that you trust that is able to help you, there in your building. I would suggest leaning on those younger people that are really quick.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't have any problem doing anything on the computer or in the phone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I
Mhm.
joke all the time. I don't know when I got old and now I can't even figure out how to turn the TV and find the channel that I want. I don't even know. I don't know. So
Well,
yeah.
thank you very much.
Of course, you're welcome. Have a great day.
You too.
Thanks. Okay.
Alrighty, thank you, Erica.